welcome to my first build on YouTube. Today we're going to be working on the Revell F-22 Raptor in 1/72nd scale. This will be my first fighter jet and my third ever model. My previous two aircraft were World War II era. I want to use this model as both kind of an experiment and to try out some new techniques to make a Christmas gift for a family friend. Revell isn't necessarily known for outlandish detail or even really high build quality, but I want to see how well we can make it look professional. This was a pleasant surprise. The F-22 has a tinted treatment to its canopy, and they thought to include that little detail in the model. So nice. On closer inspection of the parts, there's definitely some flashings that will need to be cleaned up, but it's got nice enough levels of detail and a nice quantity of parts to be a fulfilling build. Pretty much any build I've done so far has been fulfilling though, to be honest. Something that I like to do at the beginning of a build is to make a bit of a game plan. I go through the manual to see if there's any special symbols I have to look out for, like with the mecha kit. In this manual, it's all on the bottom left, so I'll make note of any special symbols like cut here, glue here, options, that kind of stuff. I also take note of the paint list. Sometimes I even bring out a highlighter if I feel like I'm going to be forgetting something. A lot of models come to a point in the instructions where you have to decide between like an option A or an option B. And there's no really going back after that, like what kind of armaments, um, whether you have the bay doors open, whether you have the cockpit open or closed, whether you have the landing gear up or down. So I kind of make those decisions as I'm going along as well, and I make notes there. And this kit actually comes with a heck of a lot of different decal options. So I kind of surveyed the decals and made the decision of which set that I wanted to use from which fighter squadron. I ended up choosing the 90th Fighter Squadron scheme from Elmendorf, Alaska. And then just kind of took note of that so I could research the base that the aircraft technically comes from. It kind of helps to know what biome your aircraft is servicing. So you can do any biome-based weathering, like desert weathering versus snow weathering versus tropical weathering. But overall for this kit, I was just going for a regular old in-service, slightly used look. F-22s never really look that beaten up because their coating is actually refreshed pretty frequently, so they don't always look very worn or weathered. Here you can definitely see some of that flashing that I was talking about with the Revell kits. I have several Revell kits kind of in my backlog, and it kind of seems that they all kind of have the similar quality to them. As I'm reviewing this footage, I'm realizing how silly it looks to be using a giant utility knife to cut off all of the extra nubs when we're done cutting things off the sprue, but hey, we work with the tools we've got. That being said, when it came to the actual like assembly of the kit, there were definitely pieces that went together really well, and then there were other pieces that I don't know if it's my inexperience when building these kinds of kits or if it's just overall jank in general with it being like a lower end kit or a Revell kit or what have you. I don't know if higher end kits have these kinds of issues, but there definitely was some fitment issues with some of the pieces, like the air intakes and the like little section to make the inset areas for the burners. Those just kind of went together in a very confusing way. it wasn't a very fun journey to put those together. Mainly because I was trying to think of how I was going to paint some pieces before I put them together so that they looked cohesive. But overall, a lot of the internal stuff connecting it to the fuselage was a bit of a pain. Uh, Marrying the fuselage together didn't go very... it wasn't very rough, but those little pieces were just a pain. Next, we worked on the cockpit area. I noticed in my reference imagery that the seat and the front end of the cockpit are black, but then the rest of the interior is kind of this dark gray color. So we decided to go with that. Right afterwards, I don't even think I waited or primed anything. I just kind of went for it. A lot of the detail is going to be hidden. But I kind of went back in later, did a little bit of edge highlighting, and went ahead and installed the decals. With everything fitted into the bottom side of the fuselage, you can kind of see how everything is supposed to go together. The intakes were actually really weird to put together, but I see why they did it. The F-22 actually has a sweeping kind of motion to its intakes on the interior to reduce its radar cross-section. It's all part of the design, but I did a little bit of a boo-boo on the bottom where I was trying to line them up and fuse them together, and it just overall, like, how they go together is strange. I wish they were one part instead of two that you had to stick together. I also filled the section that I was kind of dabbing glue there with putty and tried to kind of flatten it out, and it really shouldn't be flattened, so I did kind of mess up the silhouette there to make it a little unrealistic, but hey, I got some putty practice out of it, I guess. With all the interior pieces finished and the cockpit was installed, it was time to marry the fuselage together. I was getting excited at this point because it finally felt like it was coming together, and all of the frustrations that I heard earlier in the build were starting to fade away a little bit. Everything went together pretty well, just a couple of clamps and reinforcing in some specific spots that were a little bit of an issue with glue, and it all stuck together. Next, I assembled the rudders, and it was time to start getting ready for priming and pre-shading. I masked off the canopy and got a little too detailed with it, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get paint anywhere that I wasn't supposed to. I actually take my masking tape and stick it to my mat board, then cut into it with a hobby knife to get small pieces to form into like the weird shapes. Especially since canopy glass is always curved, you have to make sure that you follow the curve as you're masking so you get a good result. Again, I got way too obsessed with it being perfect, but there we have it. I fixed all of the bay doors in place since they're going to be, they're going to end up being open, but I'm going to use them just to kind of cover the cavities for all of the paint, and then we'll take them off at the end and refix them in their final open position. But it definitely took me a hot minute to remember how these were actually supposed to go because I did not look at the numbers when I cut them out. So be sure to do that. I spent about 10 minutes looking at them and wondering why they didn't fit, and then it was because I had them upside down and backwards. Next, I just wiped down the surface with some isopropyl alcohol and a cotton bud, just to get any dust, dirt, anything left over from the molding process. A lot of people just recommend soapy water, but I was trying to get this done quickly. I didn't want to wait for water to dry, so I definitely just went in with some rubbing alcohol, quick and dirty. Try not to rub any place too much that you've already got paint, otherwise it'll strip it, because that's what it does. Then we got to priming. If you're doing any priming, any painting, be sure to wear a respirator, all the PPE things, all of the open air ventilation. Be sure you have air going through your space. Just take care of your health. I quickly found out with this aerosol can it was a lot stronger than I thought. So just be prepared and take care of yourself when you're doing these things. I can't be the only one that enjoys the look of a freshly primed model, right? It was looking really, really good so far, and then we had our putty experiment. I used the perfect plastic putty, and I mistakenly filled in these. Again, you're really not supposed to fill them in. Try to put in a picture of the actual silhouette here, but I'd actually never worked with this putty before, so I kind of just took this as practice, and hindsight's 2020. But I let the putty dry, I sanded it, cleaned it all up, and then I re-hit it with primer just to make sure everything was all unified and there were no bumps or lumps. Then came a fun new technique that I was really, really excited to try out with this piece, which is called pre-shading. And you can be as heavy-handed with it as you want. You can just go along any of the panels that you really want to bring out in the final piece. It looks like an absolute disaster. I felt like I was ruining it the whole time, but I knew I just had to trust the process. And I really just kind of went with it here with confidence that if I did it like it, I could just layer on paint and the markings would end up going away. That's the beauty of it, and I really, really liked it. Next, I started with the edges. The Raptor has these really, really cool lighter colored edges around the exterior of literally the whole jet. I was really doubting myself here because I went by the paint list and I got the paint color and I was telling myself it is too dark. It is way too dark. You need to change the paint to something lighter. But I ended up just kind of being stubborn and sticking with it, and I was already way behind schedule with when I wanted to get this done. So I just kind of decided to go with it. A couple of models that I had seen, like actual jet models, a couple of the jet models I'd seen actually do have a darker outline. So at worst, I could just claim it was one of those. But I just kind of went with it, and I got this layer down first before I started with the main body layer, which was absolute masking hell. I went, again, way too whole hog on it, but I was telling myself that I wanted it to be... if I didn't take the time, then it wasn't going to look good. So I told myself to take the time, do it right. Masking isn't fun, painting is fun, but if you want that result, you've got to teach yourself the patience to stick with the parts of the modeling that you don't necessarily like as much to get a good result. Next came the gear door covers and the underside. I ended up freehanding a lot of the markings and doing kind of a little bit of post shading here and there. I don't know why I don't have the footage of it. I think I either got lost or I didn't have the confidence recording myself doing it, which I don't know why I wouldn't have, but that footage is just not there in my archives. But I was feeling a lot better after this, seeing the lighter color that I was so worried it was going to come out way too dark. But now that the lighter color was added, I was feeling a lot more confident and seeing how it was coming together. And overall, I was feeling pretty happy with it at this stage. I was really wanting to unmask it so badly to see how the edges looked. I painted the burner nozzles in a nice steel color and then masked off for an aluminum for the little kind of strip in the middle, but when I say masking, I really mean masking. Yeah. The edges came out alright though. Anyone that's really seen an image of the F-22 definitely can pick it out thanks to the coating that it has over the body. A lot of older generation aircraft don't have that kind of metallic-y, spaceship-y sheen that the F-22 and F-35 have these days. Um, I had been watching a lot of YouTube on how to approach kind of giving the model that look, and a lot of creators actually used a highly diluted metallic paint and kind of gave the jet an overall dusting to create that um, iconic anti-radar coating that stealth fighters these days use. And I decided to give it a shot. It darkened up my colors just a little bit, but overall the sheen that it gave it was definitely worth it in the end. Once all that was done, I finished up the wheels and attached the landing gear bays and kind of went for the landing gear at that point, but, well...
Oh, it's fine. I thought you broke it. For you? No, it's fine for me. Alrighty. Wait, really? What the hell? I've never seen that. I guess it's because multiplayer is so wonky.
No, it's gone.
The Banshee scream is
It's
amazing.
gone forever.
Even with Banshee though, you never hear the scream.
It's gone forever.
Yeah, I never found that piece. Anyway, I applied a gloss coat and then attached the rudders, got everything all ready for decaling and weathering. And then disaster struck again. I don't know what reacted with what, but even beyond my varnish layer, my gloss coat, I put on an acrylic wash and this happened. Stripped it all the way down back to the base plastic. So, sanded it down, built the layers back up, and did it all again. At the end of the day, you couldn't really tell that anything had happened, and I decided to forego using a wash entirely on the rest of the project just because I was afraid of making the same mistake. But it felt really good to mess up on that scale and then still be able to make it look fine by the end. You couldn't really tell anything had happened, and that was rather pleasing. Stressful, but pleasing. Lastly, the decals went on. I actually found this process to be a little bit therapeutic, to be honest. Even though there were like a lot of decals to put on, like a lot, it was just kind of nice to zen out and know I was nearing the end of the project. Added all the decals on and hit it with another gloss coat, and it was just time for the final touches. So I apologize in advance for how much of my head is covering the frame at random times in this clip, because I was really struggling to get all three missiles at each side of the bay sitting properly and at their correct angle and straight, and it was just a whole thing. The missiles and the bay doors. The bay doors were also really scary. I actually had to get my husband's help with those because I cut them down the middle because you for some reason they don't come separated. They come as one piece, and then for the center you have to cut it literally down the middle. And that was big scary. I managed to do it, but attaching them I didn't even record because it was just so involved. You had to hold it here and hold it here and hold it in 7 different places, and it was a lot, but it was the final stage and I just needed to be done. So I apologize for not recording it, but yeah. But with that, all it was left was unmasking the canopy and removing a couple other little masks around the jet, and we were done. For all the ups and downs, I actually quite enjoyed putting this together, and I look forward to making other ones in the future and constantly evolving as I go. But without further ado, let's see the finished result. Well, let me know what you think in the comments. I have another video coming soon, TM, and I think you can tell by some of the images that you know what the kit just might be. But I've been sitting on this footage for way too long, and I just needed to get it out there. Nothing's perfect the first go around, right? I want to experiment with a couple different formats. I'm not just a model builder. I do art, I do gaming, I do model building, I'll do all kinds of things. I can be a little eclectic. So expect to see some variety, and I'd welcome any feedback in the comments. Would you like separate channels for separate content? Do you like the voiceover approach or a text on the screen approach? How about history and contexts of the models we make? For now, I think everything will just kind of be in a different playlist. It's all about what you guys want to see. I'm a total beginner to this YouTube thing, and my goal is just to improve a little with each video while still having fun and sharing the things I enjoy with you all. Thank you so much for watching and supporting. It really means the world. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like if you like it, dislike if you dislike it, and if you think I've earned it, considering hitting that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Also, it's totally my birthday and you should like this video. Okay, bye!